So we've done actually two projects at Ashcroft. One was cleaning acid rail cars, and the other project was rinsing out hopper cars for food grade service.
Good morning and welcome to another episode of the Crownsmen Show. This is episode 43 and today we are joined by Robert Skarzynski. He is the Vice President and Business Development Manager and partner of MGH Railcar. He will be discussing the changes in the railcar industry, including the shift in who actually owns the railcars and how storage facilities are ever increasing in demand, along with some very good tips for being a new company in a massive industry. But before we get started, I'd like to go through our very special sponsors. Today we are sponsored by Lamson International. Lamson International is a third-generation family-owned and operated heavy lift and heavy haul construction company with branch offices located throughout North America, Canada, and Australia. Lamson International offers conventional crane rental, heavy transportation, project engineering, and customized rigging, steel and timber mat rental, as well as marine and manufacturing services. Lamson International was founded in 1946 by Neil and Billie Jane Lamson. The company is in their 73rd year of doing business, and you can visit them at lamsoncrane.com or email info@lamsoncrane.com. We are also sponsored by Whipware. Whipware's We're also sponsored by Whipware. Whipware's photo analysis software systems help industries from mining, quarries, aggregate, forestry, agriculture, coal, and explosive remove the need to use manual sieving techniques. Their technologies have saved clients millions in energy costs, maintenance costs, process optimization, quality control, lost time injuries, equipment downtime, and quantitative decisions. And you can find out more at whipware.com. Today, our feature sponsor is PowerZone Equipment, and you can take a look at a little clip about them right now.
The centrifugal pumps became more of a thing for us, and our real specialty nowadays is high pressure, multi-stage centrifugal pumps, and we still do the recips, but the centrifugal pumps are, the mathematics and the physics are a little more exotic, a little more engineering involved, so you can leverage your expertise.
To see the PowerZone inventory and engineering services for fluid handling, go to powerzone.com. Thank you for supporting the show. Please remember to subscribe at the end of every episode. I will also be letting you know on other ways other ways you can support the Crownsmen Show. Now let's get on with episode 43. Welcome to the Voice of Industry.
Where are you joining us today, Robert?
I'm currently in my home office in Warman, Saskatchewan, which is just outside of Saskatoon, Saskatchewan.
Is that a big town?
There's about I think like 12,000 people living here. It's considered a city, believe it or not. But yeah, we don't have Walmart.
Climate, that's considered too many people.
Well, there hasn't really been that much change, right? So
yeah. So MGH Railcar, it's right on your website, one stop for railcar solutions. So let's just jump right into it. What, in a nutshell, and we're going to get into lots of stuff about the industry, how the company was formed and developing partnerships and highlighting some projects. But can you just give us a nutshell of what the company is all about?
Yeah, so MGH Railcar was started in 2017 with myself and my business partner, just kind of out of a necessity. We'd begun working on some projects and we just had to come together and form a single company. So our objective is to offer solutions to railcar users. Normally those are banks, shipping companies. We offer a number of services. Our company is divided into basically two baskets. One side is the railcar storage, which I look after, and the other side of the business is our mobile services, and that's looked after by Mark Herbert at our company.
Okay, Mark Herbert, is he the other owner?
Correct. He's my business partner.
Okay, so a company. So how long has it been around? It hasn't been too long since MGH has been in operation.
This April is our 4th year of business. So we just began our 4th year, second day in. So yeah, we haven't been around for long. But we've grown really quickly. We have a number of customers, over 50 customers that trust us with their railcar services needs. So we've done quite a bit in a short period of time.
Had you been in the industry before this, or was this a new venture for you?
It was a new venture, first venture on my own, so to speak. Prior to this, I worked for a company that cleaned up train derailments in Western Canada. So I did train derailments from Thunder Bay, Ontario, all the way to BC. So that's how I got my exposure into the industry. I kind of went around everywhere. I saw all the track in Western Canada. I mean, there aren't many rail towns that I haven't been to. So that was my exposure into the industry. And then, I started noticing some things, and it eventually led to, wanting to start a business on my own and see what we can do ourselves rather than just work for a company.
I wanted to get into that part actually, is because you said you've traveled around, you essentially saw a need, and I want to talk a little bit about the industry itself. You and I have talked, and we'll just walk through them. We talked offline a little bit about there's more privatization in rail cars. There's an increase in rail car storage. Can we just talk about the industry as a whole? And then we'll move into how you actually enter into an industry like this. But first, the privatization of the rail car, which was a new thing for me to even learn about.
Yeah. So just to give you a little bit of a background, like when the railroad companies first started, they did everything, right? So they did the car repair, they did the track maintenance. I'm not sure if they were building cars. They might have gotten other people to build cars. But for the most part, it was a self-sufficient system. So over the years, over the decades, slowly private industries have entered the rail industry. And now you're seeing, in terms of rail car ownership, it's like 70% of the rail cars out there are owned by the rail car users, either holding companies of banks, leasing companies, or rail car shippers. So the onus has drifted away from class ones, the main railroads, over to private industry.
And has that shift already happened, or is that still a continuing shift?
That's been happening. That's been happening for decades. I mean, I think I really started to notice it about 10 years ago. I was looking at the rail cars, as they passed, and I started noticing if you look at a rail car number, if it has an X in it, it's a private car. And I started noticing all the cars were private cars. A large percentage of the cars were private cars. Every oil train is private cars. The grain shippers are getting into private cars. The potash companies are getting into private cars. The railroads, basically, they have some cars in their pool and they do a lot of intermodal service. But outside of that, the big trend has been going to private ownership. So, and with that, of course, you now have to maintain those cars, right? So,
right.
CN and CP no longer have as much repairs to do, and that's fallen to third-party companies like ourselves.
Oh, I see. Yeah. I guess it goes without saying, if they don't own them, they're not obviously going to do the maintenance on them. By the way, you and I, we've spoken a couple times, but don't know each other that well. By you saying that there's an X tells you if they're private. Now I'm going to be watching every rail car.
Yeah, a lot of people.
That's how my brain works. So you've ruined trains for me now.
I've ruined trains for a lot of people. A lot of people tell me they get stuck at trains after they see me. So I'm sorry about that. But I don't think
X,
you probably don't have much of a commute anyway, so it's not a big deal if you get stuck at a train nowadays.
I did find that really interesting though, that there has been that shift. And it's these little things, these little nuggets you find out doing the show that I always find sort of fascinating. And does that correlate with, you've also mentioned there's an increase in rail car storage. Is that correlated with the privatization, or is that a separate thing in the industry?
So I mean, now you have to get your own storage. You can't just rely on the railroads. Back in the day, you'd ask for cars. I want 20 cars. The railroad would deliver you 20 cars. But when you own those 20 cars and you don't need those 20 cars anymore, it's up to you to find out what you're going to do with it. Now, railcar storage, so it's been growing because of that. 24% of the cars were in storage, as of January, February of this year. And then recently with COVID and as well as the oil crash, and Canadian oil is trading at less than $10 a barrel. It doesn't pay really to move cars around when your freight is more than your product. So those
Yeah.
cars are all going into storage. So you had all your oil tankers going to storage, all your fracking hopper cars going to storage. And then, everyone else who might have needed storage regularly because of their business cycle, they're having problems finding storage right now. So the market for storage has just turned on its head in the last literally 2-3 weeks.
Oh,
Wow.
that recently. So as we get, actually, I'm going to ask one question about railcar storage. Now, a lot of those storage facilities, would those also be private facilities? So you're creating partnerships with them as you're dealing with your customers? Like how would that operation?
Just to explain our storage industry. So our storage business, I have a really good handle on the storage industry. We have a lot of partners with short line railroads, industrial railroads in Western Canada. And we market, we market their excess space. So these facilities, some of them are industrial where they've been built, but in a lot of cases, they're branch lines that the Class 1 railroads at one point sold to, say, the local community for farming and that sort of thing. So they bought these railroads to move grain, and now they're finding that they can drive revenue by having car storage there. They just don't have the contacts, in the potash industry, the ag industry, the energy industry, to be able to get the cars there. So that's kind of where we step in, and we help them find cars for their available storage space.
Was that something you did was that part of your business model right from the beginning?
No,
or was that
not at all. Not at all. It kind of fell into it. A customer was looking for storage, and it worked out. And then we thought to ourselves, well, are they the only one? They can't be the only customer that's looking for storage. So, over the last couple of years, I was tasked to grow that side of the business. And we've been able to now. So our railcar storage, we've got a number of customers that rely on us. Some of the added benefits are that we're working with multiple facilities. So, rather than getting, paperwork from 10 different storage locations, it's a big mess and you got to audit them. We're giving you standardized reports for every single facility. It's easy to go through. And then we're auditing everything to make sure that the charges are correct. So we're also adding value that way.
How do you get into an industry like this? I mean, I'm sure it's an old industry now, and it's probably fairly tight knit. I would guess, like everything else. But we have a section. We kind of do this show in chapters to sort of cover these different sections of both your company and the industry. And we talked about doing a section on entering an industry, and not just in yours, but in any industry, there's a challenge when you start a company. I mean, a 4-year-old company trying to deal with a 100-year-old company. I mean, there's obviously going to be a difference. So how do you these Fortune 500 companies? How, when you start out, do you enter a market like that?
You have to be patient, and you have to be willing to do the right things and build trust that way. What we did, our marketing approach was try to just keep everything digital, email marketing, LinkedIn marketing. We were able to build a connection base from that. Prior to that, we didn't know anyone. And then the other big thing that we noticed was our early customers were all Americans. We didn't have any trust locally. The Saskatchewan-based companies weren't buying from us. The Alberta-based companies weren't using us for their services. It was the company out of Chicago or Texas. So as we started to build some of those customers, and kind of we were around for a little bit, we built more trust with the local guys. So we're only now starting to facilitate conversations with some of the local big companies. So that's why I'm excited about our company and the growth that we're going to have, is because we've been able to do it, and we really haven't tapped into our full potential yet.
Right. So you went sort of from outside sources, and then but of course, I'm sure that it going to equip you to deal with your local customers now that you've had a chance to deal with those sort of.
Yeah, and you know what? We weren't always ready. As a salesperson, sometimes you want to put out a product and you're not always ready, right? So it allowed us to have some time and get to a point where we're able to offer a lot better services now than we were a few years ago. And I think we're going to be able to continue that. And I think our local customers are going to find a lot of value in that.
Going back to storage, which is where the division you run of the company, when you're those partnerships, those storage facilities, would those be primarily local, or are those spread
Those would
out
be
across
local.
even
Yeah,
into the U.S. as well?
we've started in Western Canada, so we're working with providers in Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta, BC. We haven't really gone after the U.S. market. It's not on our agenda as of yet. We're trying to focus in on our territory here, build a power base, if you will, and then we can grow from there.
And how do you? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Gary.
No, I was going to mention, I find it kind of interesting that a lot of the times for a business, it seems to easier to do business outside of our local area. And I don't know, do you think that it's because we're more cautious, or like locally we're afraid? Maybe?
I think locally, that they haven't been around long, right? But you go, you set up your web presence, and a company out of Texas look you up, and you meet all their needs. You look professional. They trust you, right? But as for Saskatchewan-based and Alberta-based customers, it took a little bit longer. We had a couple companies that supported us from day one, and that we were lucky with. So it's not cut and dry, but for the most part, most of our early customers were American, and then we've now drifted over where most of our customers are from Western Canada and based in Western Canada.
Wow.
It is, yeah. And to your point, Gowdy, it does, yeah. I think that's exactly right, Robert. You when you start out, it does seem. I mean, I remember we were traveling all over the U.S. and. When we initially started, we were at a different business model back then, but local was because, people know you. I mean, they know you on a first name basis. So they sort of know the good, the bad, and the ugly. And if you've got something that you're trying to deal with, you've got to get them to look past that. So sometimes when you get those outside clients that sort of prove that you could do it, then it's easier to sell to
you'll get that local support when you have momentum. Is when you'll get it. You're not going to get it at the beginning. You need that outside validation. Other people need that validation as well before they trust you.
Yeah.
A lot of people aren't going to trust you until someone else has trusted you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to dig into some of the other services a little bit too. The railcar service and repair. What does that entail? Like sort of the nuts and bolts of it. What is the operation? And I know you're a little bit different because you're actually doing mobile. You're not bringing them to a facility. Is that right?
Yeah, correct. So our strategy is no fixed facilities. We're completely mobile. We just operate. They're called mobile repair units, or MRUs. They're just equipped trucks with carmen inside of it. They go and they work on rail cars wherever they are. The advantage that we found with that was, if you want to send your rail car to a repair facility, it's probably going to cost you thousands of dollars per unit. So if you're sending, 100 cars into a rail car facility for repairs, you're going to spend thousands of dollars each car. You're going to lose your cars for 3 months. 60 to 90 days is pretty average. So a lot of people are still paying for their lease payments when the cars are in shop and that sort of thing. So our advantage is we go right to the cars, right at your site, or we can give you some sites in storage that we can repair the cars at, and you can get your cars repaired much quicker and much cheaper overall when you consider the freight charges.
Right.
So that's our repair.
And then you also dismantle rail cars. So is that a mobile service as well? That's
kind of a value added type service. It's not one of the main service lines. It's something that we can do in conjunction with our other services. So for instance, if there's a repair project and we find out that half the cars are unrepairable, we can scrap them on site for our customers rather than them ship them across the country for thousands of dollars a rail car.
Right. So with that, now I'm guessing there's a lot of, now if you're mobile, just going back to a little bit of the business model, if you're mobile, of course, now there's an expense of shipping out equipment and everything like that. So then you must be partnering. Do you partner with local contractors, or do you have contractors you sort of work with continuously? How do you facilitate something like that, which actually requires heavy equipment?
Yeah, well, for you're talking about dismantling, you're talking about repairing?
Yeah. Yeah, either one.
Either or. Yeah, we have a trusted network of vendors that we use to perform services. We try to do as much as we can internally, but we have a network that we rely on so that we can offer. It also helps us stay flexible and get cars and projects done faster.
Right. I'm going to circle back to the new thing that I'm hung up on is the X's on the X's on the cars. God is like, she's seen this before.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but because it's gone private, there's everybody shifting to private. I guess that actually becomes, I mean, maybe not a key part of your business, but a very common part now, because you are going to need to change all these identification decals and everything over as the industry continues to shift around, right?
Yeah, and I'm not sure where that's going to go, but that's how we started our company, is remarking of rail cars. That was our early projects. So that was changing the numbers. When one owner bought a set of cars from another owner, they have to change the car numbers. So they would hire us. We'd go out there, we put stickers on the cars essentially and change out the AEI tags, the identification tags. So those were our early projects. And like I said, I don't know if we're always going to have those identifiers on the cars, but as of now, that's how we're doing business, and they need to be changed occasionally.
You mentioned that's a change of like a sticker kind of thing, but how difficult is to change the numbers on the car?
Yeah, it's just basically like a vinyl that you put on the car. I mean, a lot of people will spray paint new numbers on, and we just don't think that looks that professional. So we get some vinyl and put it on the car. It's really sharp.
The spray paint one, that would be my version of it. Just it's fine.
Hey, it happens.
Robert, I wanted to go again. You're a newer company. I mean, new in an industry that's full of companies that have been around years and years. But you've done quite a wide range of projects and really across Western Canada. So I wanted to highlight some of those. Of course, one of them is at Ashcroft Terminal. Of course, Ashcroft Terminal has been on our show, has been featured. So that's sort of interesting that you actually have done work for them. So can you talk a little bit about what a project like that is at a place like Ashcroft?
Yeah, so I'll just give you a little bit of a background on how those projects work. So, occasionally, and for whatever reason, a railcar owner might need some sort of work done to their car. In the case of Ashcroft, it was cleaning of cars. So we've done actually two projects at Ashcroft. One was cleaning acid rail cars, and the other project was rinsing out hopper cars for food grade service.
So that sort of project, you're bringing a crew out, and what sort of I think you shared some pictures of it. Can you go a little bit into the actual steps of a project like that?
Yeah. So essentially, the customer requires the wash. We work and find a facility that can do the we can put the cars at so we can get to them. In this case, it was Ashcroft. We get approval for the work, and then we mobilize our crews to do the job. After we're done the job, we were able to produce cleaning certificates and give them to the car owners to certify that those cars have been cleaned.
So that's all facilities. So the private owner for whatever reason, they've got their rails at an Ashcroft terminal. So who's reaching out to you? Is that going through the private, or is Ashcroft Terminal dealing directly with you?
Usually the shipper reaches out to us, and then sometimes the car owner gets involved. It depends who's paying the bill.
Right, of course. And then you've been out in Saskatchewan. You've done, there was repair, wash, and scrap. I've got that as my notes. Is that right? It seems like if you're repairing washing, then hopefully you're not scrapping. I'm assuming there was a few moving parts to that. And I touched on that earlier. So that's actually one of my favorite projects. We had a customer, I was a leasing customer, and they wanted to move 100 cars from grain service into potash service, right? Potash, you can't have a car show up and it be dusty. So we got the cars, we repaired the cars so that they were serviceable. We washed the inside of the cars, and any of the cars that were too much to repair, they asked us to scrap them. So we were able to recycle parts, from the scrap cars onto the
the cars that we were trying to keep in service. So we actually delivered a lot of value, saved them a lot of money by doing a repair and scrap operation together.
So is that something they mandate, or when you go there, do you see that there's an opportunity to use the scrap parts and then lay that out for them, or are most owners pretty up to date on that sort of thing?
Yeah, well, the thing is, it's inventory, right? So when you get a set of old cars, you don't know what kind of gates are on them. You don't know what kind of lids are on them. So when you can steal parts from a portion of those cars to repair the other cars, you're going to get those cars into service a lot faster, because normally, if you want to wait for inventory, it's not. This isn't Amazon. It's going to take several weeks, sometimes months, to get these kind of parts, right? So it allows us to move quicker, and that's our goal, because ultimately no one wants to see a parked car. They want it in revenue service.
Right. And then going into the transloading, and I'm looking at these projects. They're actually all fairly different, and we're going to talk about the transloading of the diesel exhaust fluid. With these, now, is there a certification process that needs to be gone through as you're dealing with different products, or how do you, as a company, make sure you're equipped to handle all these different products that are being transported?
Yeah, no, well, ultimately, like, our biggest restriction comes down to what the AAR says we can and can't do. The AAR is the Association of American Railroads. So there are a number of things that you need to be certified for doing, which we aren't always. So, in some cases, such as cleaning, like, we can perform the cleaning work, but we're not certified to do anything like bubble leak tests or that sort of thing. So our services are limited, but it's also hard for us to get those certifications without a facility, and we're all basically project basis, right? We don't have regular work. We're chasing projects for the most part. So, we're limited to what we can do. We share with our customers what we're able to do, and I think we still provide them with value.
So going into this transloading, the diesel exhaust fluid, again, you've sent some pictures of that, so we'll put that up on the screen. Where was that project located?
I was just outside of Moose Jaw. There's a customer. They were going into a shutdown situation, so their plant was going to be shut down. They were going to be producing the diesel exhaust fluid for several months. So what they did is, beforehand, they loaded up I think it was 40 or 50 rail cars. They put them into storage with us, and then over the course of the shutdown, we slowly bled those cars out. So we were shipping 2 or 3 trucks a day. So that just goes to show, like, some of the creativity that we can do when it comes to railcar storage projects. Yeah. And
especially, I guess, you must offer to customers, this is my attempt at a pitch for you, you'll probably correct me, but you must offer, because you're mobile and you're working with the storage facilities, that must give an opportunity with the right type of client to it must be a massive saving.
Yeah, it is
huge.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
That's what they're all doing, is they're analyzing costs, right? So if we can show them something that saves them, several $100s per car, it's a tremendous value to them. And if we can do stuff locally too, closer to where the cars are going to go after they're completed, and they can go back to that loading facility, then that's going to shorten the out of service time for the cars.
Yeah.
So there's a number of factors that need to be considered when people are making these projects, and we're just trying to give those creative solutions so that you can do those weird things that a railcar repair shop won't do, or a short line won't do. We'll manage it for you, and it's just it's like a push of a button.
Yeah. When you started a company like this, I've been involved with a few new companies. I've been involved with companies that have been around a long time, but especially with new, there's always surprise in any industry. But with new, sometimes what you thought and what ends up being are are two very different things. When you start off a company like this, how much different is it from what you thought you were entering into from what this company has turned into, and even the way you service or get new business? How much is different?
And for the most part, this is kind of how we saw it going down. We knew there was going to be slow growth. We knew that we'd have to pick up customers slowly. Some of the biggest challenges that I personally, with growing a business, that I think is the delay in payment by customers. These big customers sometimes don't like to pay in 30 days. They like to pay in 60 and 90 days. And, if you as a small business aren't going to have a cash position that can support that, the choppy cash flow, then, you can be out of business just because the customer doesn't pay you on time, right? So, there's a lot to learn about, running a business and staying around. Luckily I have a business partner that I lean on that takes care of most of that stuff for us. So, that to me has been the biggest eye opener. Is just kind of, a lot of big companies will pay on 30 days, and that's the industry standard. But some other ones, 90 or 120 days, and as a small business,
it's not uncommon for 120 days nowadays. It's really not.
With today's technology and everything's instant, it's crazy. The last thing they're going to make instant is payment for service, right? But if I want to buy something, I got to pay up front. So. But I digress.
No, it's true though. That's for small companies in the industrial space, anything commercial, when the big companies, that is a major hurdle. You do the work. I did, this is years ago now, but we had an exterior company. And you've done a 30-day project, and now you're moving into a 60-day project. You still haven't got paid from the last one. You got to go buy supplies for the next one, and you got to work on 60 days. Well, the last one isn't going to pay for 30 days from completion or mid-invoice, let's say, and the other one isn't going to start paying. So you might be waiting 2 or 3 months while you're actually putting out capital. In this case, we were putting out capital for supplies, and we didn't have the best financing options because we're a little company buying from big suppliers. So it's a major challenge.
You're at
for
their
small
mercy,
companies.
and it's a timing thing, right? It all comes down to one customer can probably put you out of business at the early stage, right? So if you can get past that and you can build a bank balance and have a good cash position to handle those late payments, you'll be fine. But it's that early. Like one of our first customers, they were way late on payment, and they obviously had some financial issues. I think their business model wasn't ideal at the time. They've corrected it since, but they were basically telling us we got to pay our employees first, and then we'll pay your bill. So when you hear that, it's like, how long am I not going to get paid for? That's kind of the risks of starting a business, right? And I personally have a family of three daughters and a wife, and you don't like to hear that, but at the same time, you want to take the risk and you want to start the business because you have aspirations and stuff like that. But yeah, it's not all up to you, that's for sure.
No. You got to be a little bit. If some people say it's luck or blessed or whatever it is, but you have to have a few things go right that are beyond your control. That's for sure when you're starting out. Even big businesses do, but when you're small, you need a few people to go right when you hope they go right.
Yeah. No, there's some bad days and there's some really good days, right? So it balances out.
From your experience, what would be something that you could pass on, like an advice for companies who are starting out?
Try not to waste money. And personally save up some money before you make the jump. If you're quitting your job or you're starting a business, a lot of advice is to start something part-time. I don't necessarily believe in that. I think you might as well go in or don't do it at all. Right. If you're going to start a business, make sure that you can stand on your own legs for the 18 months or 12 months or whatever it takes to kind of get it going, and then it's probably still going to be a little bit of a rough ride after that. But that's my advice is you got to know what you're getting into and have some money and don't waste money. I did. Yeah. And I'm talking from experience.
Right. No, I think that's key. And like you said, from experience, you're not going to know until you do it.
Yeah. Some things that you think are important, and you want to spend money on turn out not to be important. And it was probably just better to have cash. Cash is always is good. And, a lot of the companies now that have a good cash position probably aren't. They're in a better shape. Like the pandemic, for instance, we couldn't see that coming.
Yeah,
it would have been good to have cash. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Well, I was talking. This is about a year ago to someone, and he was starting out something, and he had some cash saved up, and I said to him, because we were just sort of coming out of us being a brand new business. We were kind of going to our third year, and I said to him, one piece of advice I'll give you is spend as little of that cash in the first year, because like you touched on, so many of the things you think are important in that first year end up not being key to the business, and you end up burning that cash. You're almost better to do it on as little cash as possible right from the beginning. And I agree with the full time in most cases. I think, fully invest yourself into it, your time into it, but try to put as little money in, because once you start to figure out the business, then after 18 months, 24 months, 36, you start to know where that money needs to be spent. And so many people, again, speaking from experience, they front load so much of their spend at the very beginning, and then they realize, oh, I should have spent it on that instead. I think it's one of the most underrated mistakes that new businesses make.
Yeah, you don't need the $10,000 or $15,000 website to start. You just go and get it. Go and get the Squarespace, $300 a year type website to start. Right, when you're better off, by all means go and spend $50,000 on it if you feel like, but don't do that from day one. You need to protect yourself. You need to be thinking the long game.
Yeah. And I'm interested though, for your background. I mean, you've been in the industry a while, and what was your background before coming into this, and what are the lessons that you brought with you into starting a new business and having a partner, which is obviously an advantage, but it's also can be a challenge. Partnerships are important things to take care of. So what sort of your past experiences kind of brings all that together for you over the last 4 years?
Yeah, so I was fortunate with my last employer. For 5 years, I was cleaning up train derailments, like I'd mentioned. But towards the end of it, I was basically the operations manager for all of Saskatchewan. And let me tell you about a train derailment. It's probably one of the most chaotic events you'll ever see. And then you have, everyone is screaming for action. Get this done, get that done, get these cars out of the way, open up the line. So I learned how to stay calm in chaos because of it. And then the reason I didn't like it was because it's very dangerous. There's one of my favorite stories was I was asked to hook up, and when I say asked, the client asked me to hook up a dozer to a burning rail car. And the only way to do that was to climb up on top of that rail car. So this rail car is on fire, my boots are melting, and I'm trying to hook up a cable so that a dozer can drag it clear. So, I mean, that at that point is kind of when I realized that this is not, I couldn't ask anyone else to do it, so I did it myself. But at that point, I didn't want to get caught in a situation like that. It's very dangerous. There's more to life. And that was kind of one of those, I think I started my holding company just a few months after that. I knew that it was time to make a change. Yeah. So I learned, a credible amount just from, I probably got a career's worth of derailments in 5 years. I mean, I did hundreds of them.
Really?
Yeah, hundreds of them. Yeah, in all sorts of dangerous commodities. Easy ones, hard ones that took a month, ones that took 5 minutes. We did them all. I learned the rail industry really well, and I've been able to go, to the next step with that. And then, to your question with my partner, what I learned, I don't know everything, and my business partner has a really unique experience or a perspective, on the industry. So, just my perspective based off of what I know and, the lay of the land and, derailments and his experience with, railcar repair, maintenance, and that sort of thing is just, it was a perfect blend. And it's a perfect blend, I think, for the market too.
Oh, sorry, Gadi, I thought you were going to ask something.
No, sorry, I had a little bit of a sneeze.
Well, I'm making an adjustment today because the last couple episodes, I look down at the screen for who I'm talking to, but then it looks like I'm looking down. So I've been trying to look at the camera, so I have to listen really close to see if I can pick up when people are finishing. So we're adjusting on the fly here too.
Yeah, it's a little different to not have a body language to kind of play off of.
Oh, it's a big adjustment. Yeah. I'm developing a new respect for people who do radio shows.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Did what have you as we sort of get to the tail end of the show, have you, during this COVID-19, have you made any adaptations to your company that you think will stick? It's sort of a question we're asking everybody. I'm also just feeding for ideas too for my own company, but I'm just wondering, have there been things you've added in that you go, no, this is actually a good way of operating, or were you pretty mobile before?
As a salesperson, I mean, I would do sales trips to Calgary. I would go there for a week and maybe meet 15 people, and that was exhausting. I can probably do that in 2 days online. So there's that. I think there's a new way of doing business that we have to embrace. I don't think this is going to stop anytime soon. I think video conferencing, that's how we're going to do it. So me personally, I'd like to invest in a little bit more equipment so that the production's a little bit better in the future, because this is how we're going to do business. This is how we're going to communicate with each other. And it's completely global. I can talk to someone in Poland or the Philippines and Calgary within the same hour. You couldn't do that before, right? And now people are at home, so now I can get a hold of people. I can call people. Before, you were in a meeting all day, right? So
oh, for sure.
This is going to unleash a lot for people. I think you can be really productive in this environment, especially if you've already been going digital.
Yeah, if you're sort of already ahead of the curve, well, we were, very fortunate in that our business is sort of in that realm anyway. So we literally just had to order in some adapters and, some different connectors and some software, and we were good to go. But for companies I've met over the years that are, they're maybe 10 years behind, they're going to have a big shift. But I think it'll actually be helpful for them purely from a business side, not from the economic side. I think it's going to be helpful because it is forcing now people to sort of get into that. The other thing I've seen, and this is sort of a psychological thing, but I've noticed now, we always have a thing where people, for lack of a better word, they kind of hum and haw if they want to come on the show. Is it the right fit? Now people, if they're sort of, if this COVID thing, even psychologically, is really, really putting them down, they're very quick to just say no, I don't want to do it. But people are also much quicker to say yes. If they're into it, if they sort of got that fighter mentality where they go, no, we're going to find something new, they just, we're on, when are you booking us in? We've been able to book people so much faster than we've ever been able to, because in a way we've kind of weeded out people that are just they just don't want to engage. They just kind of want to wait it out, and it's you're seeing a very stark difference.
But they don't want to go through with it, eh?
Yeah, well, and I understand it. Our office is closed. We don't have anybody here, and so nobody's coming in, and so it can be a little disheartening, especially on the retail side. We have retail companies around us. I can't even imagine what it's like for them right now. So, but in the industrial space, we're certainly finding people like yourself who go, no, I'll come on. I'll still keep talking. Like, let's keep going. And I think it's going to make a huge difference when we come out of this, because we will, like you said, the companies that adopt new technology, new ways of doing things, and are preparing themselves for when things pick up, and they will pick up.
Yeah, I think, let's try to adapt as quick as possible into this environment. If this can end in 2 months, great. If we can go back to how it was, great. But if this drags on for, 18 months or 2 years, I like to, have the biggest head start I can into the new way of doing business.
Yeah. No, it's good. I will say, though, it's tough for people. They're working from home. They've got families and kids are out of school, and that's That's a whole other challenge. I don't have that problem, so it's easy for me to say.
No,
Yeah, it's
I could only
definitely
imagine.
hard.
Yeah, you've got a bit of a crew there, hey, Gowdy?
Yeah, definitely. I think that you go from you thought you had one career, and now you know that no, you're kind of being launched into a whole new one. Now you have to teach, and it's a bit of a process.
Yeah, you said, Robert, you have 4, right?
And I got three daughters and a wife. So yeah, four others
you
to
got a whole
distract
crew.
me throughout the day. Luckily, I mean they've done great with just giving me space to work.
Yeah.
I mean I come down. I have a basement office, so I come down. I put 4 hours in. I take lunch. I took another 4 hours, and honestly, I'm so productive. I'm getting so organized. It's crazy. I never had this much time, right? So as long as you
Yeah.
crack that laptop open and just let it suck you in, like you know, there's lots to do.
Yeah. Yeah, what I've done every now and then, I feel a little bit like, oh, this is kind of like, is this being productive? So what I do is I just grab a really easy task to do to get me back going again. But you're not the first person to mention it to me. Like, there's a little bit of that adjustment from fully working from home. But I'm hearing a lot of people now are saying all of a sudden they realize, whoa, I can get a lot done in an 8-hour day if I'm not moving around.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Well,
it's the meetings too, right? Or you eliminate the walking to meetings, the time in between meetings. That's going to save companies so much labor.
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I also find that at least working from home, I have a little bit more peace of mind. I'm not so worried about, the tasks that need to be done at home because I'm here. And so I know that I have the time, that I don't have to, again, spend the time of driving one place, driving to the next, that. So it's so much easier.
Although I will say, Gowdy, now that I have to go through all the steps in the morning, I realize how much stuff you do to put this show together because I have to do it. But Robert, I do thank you for coming on the show. We genuinely appreciate it because it really, we're watching all of our engagement. I've said this on the other shows. Episodes, our engagement is going up online because I do think people want more than just news. They want to feel connected to their heavy industries, whether it be transportation or mining or energy. And so we appreciate you coming on and just keeping everybody informed and engaging with an audience.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's a lot of exciting things going on out there, and you guys have done a great job of showcasing that. So I'll be sure to continue watching what you guys are doing as well.
Yeah, and hopefully get you on back on here at some point. So thanks, Robert. I certainly wish you the best with everything. I think you've got it's clear you're filling a need, and it's an interesting business model. So it's something that I want to keep my eye on, and I think a lot of the audience will be interested in it as well.
Awesome.
Okay,
Appreciate
thanks
your
a
time,
lot,
guys.
Thank you so
you're
much.
welcome.
You guys have a good one.
You too.
Take care.
Okay, I'm going to put it back to Gowdy now to wrap up the show. Tell us how you can support us, and again, thanks to Robert for coming on the show. It's great to have people talking, and there's a lot of energy actually of people wanting to try online, doing it remote. So we're glad to have our small opportunity to contribute to that. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you for watching. Please subscribe and follow us on Facebook and LinkedIn. You can also listen wherever you get your podcasts. And also, please head on over to crownsmen.com/donations. If you're a dedicated fan and watch every episode, or if you have a favorite industry that you love to follow and would like to help support, then please donate. Again, that's crownsmen.com/donations. There are various options. We've got the $5 monthly subscription and the support heavy industry one-time donation. And this is all through PayPal, so it's super, super safe. But again, that's crownsmen.com/donations. Thank you so much for your support. If you donate or you subscribe, I will also do a little shout out on the upcoming episodes. Thank you for watching.